DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as DreAllDay, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the 3 key laws of economics. And it has come to my understanding, the reason that we're going to talk about this, and I'll tell you up top that nothing that I tell you here today is financial or tax advice. You should speak to a certified financial professional if you ever have questions about your finances, taxes, retirement, et cetera, et cetera. I'm saying that tongue in cheek because nothing I'm going to talk about here today is actually about finance. It's the laws of economics, which is a little bit different, a little bit higher level thing. But it's come to my understanding over the years that most people do not understand these laws and don't understand how these laws apply to them. Most people, I would guess that maybe a good amount of you listening to this, no diss to any of you, maybe are not even aware of the fact that there are laws to economics. But the good news is you're listening to the right person, you are in the right place, and you are here at the right time, because I'm going to resolve all these issues for you that you didn't even know you had. See, that's what I do. Right? What makes me a high-level professional at what I do is that I answer questions that you didn't even know that you needed to be asking. And not only do I provide you the question, I also give you the answer at the exact same time. Like, this is the reason why the Work on Your Game Masterclass is amazing. It's the reason why you need to join Work on Your Game University. But anyway, I digress from the point. But many people don't understand these laws and how they apply to everyday life. And because these laws are, as I just explained to you in my disclaimer, they're not actually about money per se at all. They are about understanding how the universe works in relation to human decisions and human behaviors. That's what this is about. So I've appointed myself, as usual, to set everyone straight on these laws, introduce you to, then set you straight on these laws. And I'm going to help you understand how they work, why they work, and how they apply in your everyday life, even when money is not the subject. Everybody ready for that? Good. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is the 3 key laws of economics. First law of economics that all of you should know. All right, if you are 3 years old, you need to know the 3 laws of economics. This first law, my son is going to know this very soon. Number 1 law of economics is supply and demand. Speaking of my son, for example, he is a little bit past 2.5 years old, as I wasn't forgetting how old he was, but I'm just trying to think how close he is to 3, but a little bit past 2.5 years old. And just today, when I was live streaming on all 7 live streaming available platforms, he actually sat on my lap and sat there and let me live stream while he sat there and listened to me talk for about 10 minutes straight, which is the longest he's ever sat and consumed daddy's work-related material. Now, he will sit and consume some cartoons and all that stuff, and he will sit and consume playing with his toy dinosaurs. He has never sat and consumed 10 minutes of me, and literally I was talking about whatever topic I was live streaming on here today, social and current event issues. He sat there and listened to it for about 10 minutes straight, didn't say anything, just listened to me. That was the first time that he did that. So I think he's almost ready, just like you are right now, to learn the 3 laws of economics. I have not taught this to him yet, so you are getting the exclusive straight from me before my son even gets it. So the first law of economics is supply and demand. What is the definition of supply and demand? It means prices are determined by the relationship between supply, i.e. how much of a thing is available, and demand, i.e. how much people actually want it. So for example, if a new iPhone is in high demand and Apple produces only a limited quantity, i.e. less than the number of people who actually want it, the prices of the phone go up. Why? Because of scarcity. That's it. When you make something scarce, its value goes up. When you make something plentiful, its value goes down. If you want to understand why inflation happens in the United States of America in very simple terms, I did a whole live on this. If you did not hear that, I'm used to saying live. I did an entire episode on this. I did a series on this when I talked about the middle class and why the middle class is in trouble. I talked about this in episode number 3143. If you have not heard that, you should listen to it. If you or someone you love is in the middle class or considers himself middle class, they should listen to it so they understand this very well. The reason why inflation happens, inflation simply meaning, let's just say the cost of your life just keeps going up. Cost of gas and insurance and childcare and eggs and rents and mortgage, everything just keeps going up. Have you noticed that? You want to know why that happens? It happens because the United States government continues to print money, i.e. put more money in circulation. And every time the United States government puts more money in circulation, being that our money is not backed by anything real. Back in the days before I was born, money was backed by gold. Which meant every dollar we put in circulation, there was actual gold that basically served as a a guarantor of that dollar. So we didn't put money into circulation unless there was gold to back that dollar. So the dollar was actually worth something because that dollar was represented by actual gold. And we got off the gold standard, which meant our money was not backed by anything. To this very day, our money is not backed by anything. So the numbers in your bank account or the dollars in your pocket are not actually real. They're not backed by anything except the blind faith of the American citizen. So as long as we have faith in our government and in our financial system, your money means something. But if we lose that faith, then your money is actually worthless and you can burn it as firewood. The point being, as the Federal Reserve Bank, which is not federal, there are no reserves and it's not a bank, continues to put more money in circulation, that means there are more dollars available. And what did I just tell you about supply and demand? When you make something more available, its value decreases. Simple as that. Did y'all see the video or the story on social media about the girl who had sex with 1,000 men in 24 hours? I think it was in 24 hours. I think it was 24 hours. She had sex with 1,000 men in 24 hours. Now, I don't want to get too crude here, but how valuable is access to her private areas now that she's allowed 1,000 men in within 24 hours? Now, how valuable is it? How much does it mean to you if you were to meet her at a bar and you knew who she was? Let's say maybe you didn't know who she was, then maybe you might think you're hitting a big score if you take her home that night. But if you knew who she was and then she offered some of her intimate parts to you, how valuable is it? Well, it's a lot less valuable than if there was a woman who didn't do that. Why? Simply because she's made it so available that its value is lowered. This is just the way it works, folks. And again, this is a law. Okay, I'm giving you the laws of economics. It's not Dre Baldwin's theory. It's not Dre's opinion. This is the law of economics. When you increase the supply of something above a certain amount, its value decreases. It doesn't mean you can't keep increasing the supply if you want to, but its value goes down simply because there's so much of it out there. So you may remember, some of you may remember, I don't know if they do this anymore, but Jordan sneakers. There was a time when you couldn't buy the sneakers on the internet. You had to buy them. You had to actually go to the store. And there was a Jordan sneaker coming out. People would line up outside the store the night before the store opened just so they could be first in line to buy the sneakers simply because they wanted to be able to get them before they sold out. Apple iPhone used to do the same thing. Actually, I think people still do this for the iPhone. As a matter of fact, I saw it. I was walking past the Apple store inside of a mall. Maybe about, when I'm recording this, the latest iPhone is the iPhone 15. I believe the iPhone 16 is coming soon. Is the iPhone 16 out already? And maybe somebody can, I'm gonna look this up right now. When is the iPhone 16 coming out? Because I saw the ad for it. I actually, personally, just on a personal note, I need to get me a new iPhone. I have not gotten a new iPhone in I'm like 3 phones behind. So the last iPhone that I got, my current active phone is an iPhone 13. So I'm 2 phones behind. And then when the 16 comes out, then I become 3 phones behind. So I am going to get the iPhone 16. So I'm going to actually look this up and see what it's going to cost me to get the iPhone 16. So it costs, so this is the iPhone 16. And now you have all these different forms of the phone. This annoys me because now I got to look at each one and figure out, I don't want the Pro because the Pro is the really big one, right? The one that's like a damn iPad. I don't want that phone. It barely can fit in my pockets. I don't like those big phones I'm 6'4". I have pretty big hands. If I need 2 hands to operate the phone's too damn big. So it's always interesting to me when I see people who are smaller than me with the iPhone Pro. Like, why do you have that big ass phone? Is something wrong with your eyesight? Why are you carrying that big ass phone? I want the regular size phone. So that means, I guess I'm gonna get the iPhone 16 Pro. We got any iPhone experts in the room? I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna get. Then they have the iPhone 16e. What is the iPhone 16e? What does that even mean? Is this like a scaled down iPhone? I'm assuming this is a scaled down iPhone. I don't want the scaled down iPhone, but I don't want the computer size iPhone either. I want the regular iPhone. Okay, so I'm on the Apple website, by the way. I'm just talking you through my thought process. iPhone 16, built for Apple Intelligence. You can buy it from $799 or $33 a month for 24 months. All right, all this stuff. Oh no, it's the 16 Plus. The Plus is the big one. Okay, that's what I don't want. So actually, I do want the iPhone Pro. Okay, so I'm getting the Pro and the Plus mixed up. I think iPhone should simplify this language. Okay, so the iPhone Pro, that's the one I want. I don't want the Pro Max. The Pro Max is the super big phone. It makes no sense. That phone's too big. So I want the Pro 16.3 inches and it costs $1,000. So it's a $1,000 phone. And I was telling you all that. I lost my train to even what I was trying to tell you about here. I saw people lining up for the iPhone. I believe it was the 15. Might have been whenever the iPhone 15 came out. There was people lined up outside the Apple store the day that the phone dropped, just so they could go buy the phone. So Apple still has this effect. Now the line wasn't as long as it probably was, 10 years ago when they were dropping iPhones, but they still have that effect. People want to be the first to have a thing because technically there is a limited supply of iPhone, because when iPhone first comes out, those of you who know, many of you are probably iPhone users, some of you may know this, that the first run of phones get sold and then they're on back order. So if the iPhone comes out on October 1st, for example, you might be able to get the phone if you go to the Apple Store between October 1st and October 10th. But if you go to the Apple Store on October 15th, they're going to tell you you can order the phone, but you're not going to get it until Thanksgiving, like late November. You got to wait all this time to get the phone. So you get the first wave or you get the later wave, but you're going to have to wait. I personally am not an iPhone fanatic. I like the iPhone. I'm not a fanatic. If I decide I want a phone, I want the phone that day. I'm not on this wait 3 weeks to get the phone. Fuck that. I want the phone right now. Once I decide I want something, I want it today. Not next week, not 3 weeks from now. And I'm looking, I don't know, is the iPhone 16 available right now? Can I buy it right now? So I'm looking on the site to see what they say. So they say, how much storage space do you need? Oh man, so they got all the way up to 1 terabyte now. So I'm looking at my phone. What size do I have? Oh, this is part of the conversation here about about the size, about the iPhone. So I got the 1 terabyte. I didn't know I had a 1 terabyte phone. Okay, yes, I got a 1 terabyte, and right now I only have 75 gigabytes remaining on this phone. But I've had this phone I got the 13, so I missed the 14, 15. So I've had this phone for 3 years, and I still have space. So, all right, shout out to Apple with the 1 terabyte. So I'm going to get the 1 terabyte iPhone, and it's not $1,000 actually. The 1 terabyte iPhone 16 Pro, if I'm looking, yes, iPhone 16 Pro is $1,500. So it's actually 50% more than I thought it was, or $62 a month for 24 months. Personally, I like buying my phones outright, so I'm buying my phone. I'm not leasing. And you can select smartphone. You could trade in a phone. I'm not trading in my phone. I like to keep my old phones because I use them as cameras. So if you want to know how I can stream to 7 different platforms at the same time, because I have more than one device. And payment options, you can buy one. You can, all right, so no trade in. I can buy it for $1,500. I can finance it for $62 a month for 24 months. Or I could do 36 months and it'll be a little bit cheaper. And 0% APR. No, that's actually a good deal. So $62 a month for 24 months. Let's just make sure that math is right. So according to iPhone's website, $62.45 times 24 months. Yes, it actually comes out. So they're not lying to you. You can pay $62 a month for 24 months. And there's no finance charge. So if you don't have $1,500 in cash, you could just finance the phone, which is fine. The iPhone upgrade plan, I'm not a fan of. So then let's say I buy the phone. Then I have my current carrier is T-Mobile. And do I want Apple Care coverage? Yeah, probably not. And, oh yeah, you can get the phone tomorrow. Oh, so this is a new thing. I didn't notice. I thought Apple had did what do they call it? Like a launch for the phone. I heard the iPhone 16 was coming out. Maybe I'm just behind on tech news. But usually they would have a set date when the phone was coming out. Is this a new thing? They don't do this anymore. So what they're telling me is right now I can get this phone today. So, or tomorrow. They said worst case you could have a phone tomorrow. And that's what I like. So actually it might be time for me to buy an iPhone. So if you see me in the street, you should ask me, Dre, did you get that iPhone yet? Because let's see. They say I can have it tomorrow for free delivery. So let me see if I can find a location where I'm at. Where would I want to get this? So some stores is currently unavailable for in-store pickup. Other stores it is available. So if I really wanted it today, I would have to do a little bit of driving because the closest store to me doesn't have it. But I could get it delivered to my house tomorrow for free. Tomorrow is fine. All right, so $1,500. I got to break open the piggy bank, see if I can get me an iPhone. So the whole point, folks, here is that they put things out in scarcity. Jordan sneakers used to do the same thing. And when they moved to selling them online, it was the same thing. I saw people talking about this, that the Jordan sneakers would come out at like midnight and people would be on the website. I remember one of my friends, I was on vacation with a friend of mine and he's a big Jordan sneaker guy. So he had his computer open to the website where you buy the sneakers. He had the sneakers in the cart and he had his credit card all queued up. He said, all I gotta do is click the button to do the purchase and I'll have my Jordans coming in. And he didn't get them because as soon as it hit midnight, a million other people hit the button and they beat him to getting the Jordans. That's what happens when you make an item scarce, is that people go rush to get it. As soon as at least if people want the item, whatever it happens to be. And what people started doing with Jordans is that they came up with like internet bots that would buy it for you, like at the exact split second that they became available. I've never done any of these things, but there are people who do this. And the point is, this is a supply and demand curve, okay? Anything that you see in existence that you do not like its existence, I understand that there is someone that is asking for that thing. That's the reason why it's there, because somebody's asking for it. That's why it's there. I remember a female was telling me how she didn't like that there were so many Instagram ass models out there. That was her phrasing. She said Instagram ass models, and that's the reason why I did episode number 3203 explaining the existence of Instagram ass models. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned supply and demand in that episode. If I didn't, I'm mentioning it right now. There are buyers for Instagram ass models, and when I say buyers, I don't mean they are buying them like sex toys. Some people are. Is people are willing to pay for access to them, whether they're paying money or they're paying attention. And if everybody stopped paying attention, nobody would be doing it. It wouldn't exist because nobody'd be paying for it. You don't see male ass models on Instagram, right? Because nobody wants it. But if people wanted it, you would see a whole bunch of them on there. Or maybe it's just not showing up in my feed, and Instagram is to continue to not show up in my feed. So this applies to everything that's being supplied in all the universe and in all forms. Point number 2. So everybody's clear on the first law of economics, right? Which is the law of supply and demand. Here's the second law of economics: diminished marginal returns. How is this explained? And the topic here today is the laws of economics. Definition of diminished marginal returns means adding more of an input, such as labor or money, to a fixed resource, such as land or machinery, eventually leads to decreasing additional output. For example, if a factory starts hiring workers to work on the assembly line because they want to get more work done, at first, productivity goes up. But at a certain point, if you keep adding more and more workers to the factory, because again, you didn't expand the factory, so the factory is still the same size when you had no workers, then you add 100 workers and everything's going great. Now you go hire 500 more workers, the factory is still the same size. Now the workers are bumping into each other. They're getting in each other's way, and it reduces efficiency because you got too many cooks and the kitchen ain't big enough. Anybody ever heard the phrase too many cooks in the kitchen? This is diminished marginal returns. We should have a cook in the kitchen to make sure the food gets cooked. Maybe 2 cooks, maybe even 3, depending on the size of your kitchen. But eventually you keep putting people in the kitchen becomes uncomfortable and nothing's getting cooked. Everybody understand that? That is the law of diminished marginal returns. Again, this is the second law of economics. Now let's talk about how this can apply in a more practical sense for some of you. If you're a person who has never lifted weights before and you start to lift weights, anybody listening to this who has lifted weights, you know what happened when you first started lifting. You got all these amazing results really quickly. You got a bunch of results immediately. Your body started changing within the first maybe 30 to 90 days. But over time, as you continue to lift weights, you were still getting what they call gains in lifting, whether in strength or in the way you looked. The problem was your gains started to get smaller and smaller as you continue to lift. Why? Because of diminished returns. Diminished marginal returns. You still got returns, but they were getting smaller and smaller because your body got used to the lifting. So now you hit what they sometimes in weightlifting call a plateau, and you would have to kind of do different things to change the situation. So the law of diminishing returns, again, as it is often known, law of diminishing without the word marginal, the more and more you add to a thing, doesn't apply to everything, but it applies to many things, especially things that are fixed resources. So such as your human body is a fixed resource. There's only so much body that you have. You can lift weights, but there's only so much body you can add to it. Speaking of such, and speaking of Instagram ass models, is any of you, if you live in a place like New York, Miami, Vegas, Houston, LA, you may see some women walking around with asses that are clearly, and breasts that are clearly not theirs. It's almost comically obvious how much it's not their original ass or their original breasts. And they're walking around with it to the point that you're like, all right, that's a little bit too obvious, baby girl. You did too much. You did too much. Number one thing I would say to any woman who's looking to go get some physical augmentation at the doctor is, if that's what you want to do, go do it. The stigma is completely removed, especially where I live. However, at the same time, moderation. All right. It should look like it's real, even if it's not real. If it's not real, people should be looking at it and kind of wondering, is that real? Is it not real? People should be wondering if it's real or not. If people are not wondering because it's so obvious that it's not real, you did too much. And I see this in Miami all the time. I remember I was in Whole Foods once and I seen this woman whose ass was obviously not real. And I pulled out my phone because I wasn't going to take a picture of her because her back was turned to me. But when I was getting ready to lift my phone and take the picture, she turned around and looked right at me. So I didn't get a chance to take the picture. Actually, I did still take the picture, but it wasn't as good as it would have been had I been able to get the full shot. The point being, folks, that when you keep adding on and adding on and adding on to something that is fixed, eventually it starts to not work the way that you thought it was going to work. There's a certain point at which you get your peak, and anything you do after that, you're doing too much. There's a rapper by the name of Lil' Kim. Some of you may remember Lil' Kim. She was very well known back in the 90s when she was rapping with Notorious B.I.G. and this group called the Junior Mafia. And Lil' Kim was brown skinned and she was a pretty girl, a good rapper, a pretty girl. I mean, I know Notorious B.I.G. was writing most of her raps, but she was a good rapper. And over the years, after B.I.G. passed away and over these last 25 plus or so years, Lil' Kim has spent a little bit too much time at the plastic surgeon. She has done a whole lot of things to her face, a whole lot of things to her skin, a whole lot of things to her everything. She's augmented pretty much every part of her body to the point that the last time I saw a picture of Little Kim, she didn't actually look like a real human. Has any of you ever seen a person who doesn't even look like a real human because they did way too much to their bodies? I've seen this way too many times. So let me see if I can find a picture of Little Kim, like a recent picture of Little Kim. Last time I saw her, I didn't like the way she looked. She's still out there performing and doing her thing, apparently. But yeah, I'm looking at a picture of Lil Kim, and she looks like somebody built her in a Barbie factory. That's what she looks like nowadays. Her skin tone is a lot lighter. Her face looks like I'm looking at pictures of her. They are still images, but looking at these pictures of her, it looks like her face doesn't move. You ever seen somebody like this? And again, you live in the places that I mentioned earlier, New York, LA, Miami, Vegas. You see a lot of people, women, usually women, but sometimes men too, who they do a little bit too much to themselves to where their face doesn't physically move anymore. Like when they laugh, you can't tell. And when they're sad, you can't tell. Nothing moves. Their face is like just a still, it's like a mask. This is what happens with the second law of economics. Okay, there's a law of economics, ladies and gentlemen. Your plastic surgeon is not going to tell you this because you're paying the plastic surgeon. They'd rather just take your money and do whatever you want them to do. You got to have your own discipline to understand the laws of economics. Diminish returns. Okay, the law of diminishing returns. But less ROI. It's like if you're hungry for some sweets. Let's say I wanted some sweets right now. And as a matter of fact, where was I? A couple of days ago, I was in a store and I was getting some food for a meal. And I saw some candy at the checkout line. I was looking for some candy that I wanted. I had the intention of buying candy. The problem is at this particular store, the only candy they sold was like these big boxes of candy. They didn't have the little small ones, like a little small pack of Skittles. If they had that, I would have bought it. They didn't have it. They had all this bulk candy and the big clear plastic containers. There's like $7 for the candy. And it was too much candy in the box. And I'm looking at it like, I don't want to eat all of this. I just want a few pieces. And I ended up buying none of the candy because I understood unconsciously the law of diminishing returns. That the first few bites of candy will taste good, but if you sit there and eat the whole thing, then eventually you may feel less and less good, and you may even start to feel sick. You start to go in the opposite direction. Okay, there's a point that you hit the sweet spot of supply and demand. If you go too far with the supply, now things start getting worse. In American society, actually speaking of food, we tend to not be too good with this because there's a certain amount of food we do need to live. And then once we start eating too much of it, we start hurting our ability to live. So you understand this law of diminishing returns is a real thing. And if any of you thinks about any of these examples that I'm giving you, then it probably makes a lot of sense to you. So it starts working in the opposite direction if you don't use it properly. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the 3 key laws of economics. Law number 3 is opportunity cost, which means what? The cost of choosing any option for anything is the value of what is given up by not choosing the next best alternative. Anything you choose to do, the cost of that choice is everything else that you're not doing. That is known as opportunity cost. I've talked about this and I explained it with another term called the trade-off. Everything in life involves a trade-off. There are no perfect scenarios, only trade-offs. I told you this in episode number 2174. Everything you do in life has a trade-off. For example, if you invest $10,000 in stocks, instead of putting that $10,000 into real estate, the opportunity cost is the profit that you could have made from the real estate deal. And if you instead put the money in the real estate, opportunity cost is a profit you could have made from the stocks. Everything has a trade-off. Again, there are no perfect scenarios. If you are married and listening to this, the trade-off of getting married is that you can no longer walk around and tell people that you were single. And I'm not even going to say the trade-off of what you could do because it depends on who you are in your relationship. But the trade-off of being married is that you can no longer declare yourself single. The trade-off of having a kid is no longer being able to say, I don't have any kids. So everything has a trade-off. The fact that I'm recording this show right now, the trade-off of this is I'm not doing all the other things that I could be doing if I was not recording this episode. So in simple terms, folks, there's no free lunch. I've often described it this way. So opportunity costs is the same as trade-offs. It's the same as there is no such thing as a free lunch. There are no free lunches in life. My favorite book of all time, 48 Laws of Power, I believe is law number 42. Despise the free lunch. You should be very, very wary of anyone offering you a free lunch. I'm going to do all this stuff for you and it doesn't cost you anything. There's a whole lot of people making these kind of offers in the business world these days. I get these offers every single day from somebody in business who says something like, I'll help you get 20 new coaching clients in the next 90 days. And if we fail to do it, then you don't pay anything. And it's like, oh, you're going to do it all for free. That's not really what they're doing. What they're going to do is say, yes, we will do it all for free if we don't get you 20 clients, but you still have to pay us our money up front. So they're going to give you a charge. You pay the money up front. And if they fail to get you the clients, then they give you your money back. If you go through the whole process, it's really just a sales pitch. It's a hook. It's a hook to get your attention to have the conversation. That's really what it's all about. And it's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a bait and switch. And I don't like when people bait and switch me. But at the same time, some of these people may actually be good, but I wish they didn't do it that way. But I understand that they are, because there's a supply and demand. So you see how all these laws work together? The reason that this offer of I'll get you 20 new clients or you pay nothing works because there are a bunch of people responding to it. If no one was responding to it, they would stop doing it. But because people are responding to it, they keep doing it, even though I don't like it. But I understand, because some of them are actually good at what they do. Their service is actually good once you get into it, even though I don't like what they're doing to get people into the service. You get what I'm saying? And again, not everybody has the ability to kind of look at things as objectively as at least I think I'm able to look at things. So everything has a trade-off, folks, and everything has a cost. Every single thing you do, everything you've done, and everything you will do, there is a cost to doing it, if nothing else in the form of everything else that you're not doing in that moment. Okay. So right now I could be laying at the beach. I could be mopping the floor. I could be washing the dishes. I could be reading a book. I'd be listening to somebody else's content. I'm not doing any of those things because I'm recording this show. That's the opportunity cost. The reason why this should be understood, folks, there's no such thing as a free lunch, is that sometimes people will try to bait you with a free lunch, and then they call it the bait and switch. Everybody's heard of baiting switching, right? Baiting and switching is when someone markets to you an opportunity that seems really good. And then when you go to take a look at the opportunity, it turns out that it is not the way that it was advertised. It's actually something else. They just used that bait to get your attention. And then they tell you the real deal, which is not as sweet or as great an offer as it sounded on the surface. That's called a bait and switch. And technically, in the marketing and advertising world, technically that's illegal. But people do it all the time these days, and the lines are so great, and there's so many people doing it that it's kind of hard to regulate. I don't like when people use bait and switch personally. I don't like doing it. But again, I can't say that it doesn't happen, and I also can't say that there is a demand for people who are supplying it. So I completely understand. I'm not the type of person, for example, to post a lot of pictures of myself standing in front of places that I live or places that I visit, or showing you that I'm sitting in first class on an airplane, or taking pictures in front of a car. I just don't like doing that because I don't like the type of people who I attract with that type of content. I'm not looking for people who are so drawn into that type of material. At the same time, I have a lot of friends in the business world who do exactly this, and they attract those type of people, and they want to attract those type of people. I personally don't want to attract those people. Those are not the people I'm looking for. Now, if some of those people end up in my world, that's fine. They're going to end up in my world for other reasons than that, because I'm not using that as bait to get your attention. But if I wanted to, I could. I just choose not to. Same way there are women who are listening to this right now that if you wanted to, you can get on Instagram and be an ass model if you wanted to. I mean, every woman has an ass. You could just show it off and somebody's going to like the picture, but you choose not to. And the opportunity cost of not doing it is the attention of the men who are interested in ass models. All right, that's the cost. That's the trade-off. Does everybody understand this? So the reason why this should be understood is because many human beings search aimlessly and endlessly for a perfect scenario from life. And you don't realize that there are no perfect scenarios. You will never find a perfect scenario if you're looking for one. Remember the 80-20 principle, which states what? 80% of the inputs produce 20% of the outputs, and the inverse, 20% of the inputs produce 80% of the outputs. Understand this 80-20 principle is very valuable because it applies in other ways as well, such as to this one right here, this law. The most you're going to get out of any circumstance, anything you do in life, is 80% of everything that you want. Any of you is in a relationship with another person, look at that person or think of that person if you can't see them right now, and I'm going to tell you, the best you're going to get out of them is 80% of what you want. If you listed every single thing you wanted in a person, that person who you're with right now can provide 80% of it. The other 20%, you're not going to get it out of that person. And if you're able to get that other 20% out of that person, it's going to come at the cost of having to give up 20% of what you already have, because there is no perfect scenario. Perfect scenario will be a person who has 100% of what you want. And sometimes people say that. Oh, I made a list of everything I wanted in a man. I found this man who has 100% of the things that I want. Bullshit. No, you didn't. You found a man who had 80% of what you wanted, and you ignored the other 20% so you can go with this man because you wanted to be with him. That's what you actually did. No one's ever found a person who has 100% of what they want. You may find a person that you like, and then you retroactively create a list that basically is everything that they are so that you can lie to yourself and say this person's 100%. Every single one of you listening to this right now, if you are married or in a relationship, I guarantee you that person is providing only 80% of what you want. The other 20%, you are okay with not getting it from that person. Why? Because it's the law of the universe. I don't need to know you. I don't need to know your husband or your wife. I know this is true because it's a law of the universe. There are no perfect scenarios. Now, do you understand? And what happens is, here's the mistake that people make when they don't understand this, is that they are in a situation in which they're getting 80% of what they want, and they start getting wandering eyes, metaphorically or literally, looking for the 20% that they don't have. And here's where the mistake happens. When you start looking around for the 20% that you don't have, eventually, guess what? You will find the 20% that you don't have. Now, the issue is, in order to get that 20%, you may need to give up some of the 80% that you already have. And if you're not thinking long term, you may be willing to give up some or all of the 80% to get the 20% that you were missing. And then while you're dealing with the 20%, if you will enjoy it for a little while, eventually you're going to say, okay, well, where's the rest of it? All right, you're dealing with the 20%. Okay, where's the rest of this? Where's the rest of the substance to this thing or situation or to this person that I went to get the 20% that I was missing? Because the 80% that I gave up, I still need that 80%. You're going to realize that the thing that provides the 20% has none of the 80%. And now you're going to realize the error in your ways. This is the mistake that a lot of people make. Men, I'm calling you to the carpet. All right. A lot of men make this mistake, and I don't need to even go into detail. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We just talked here today about Instagram ass models. All right, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Women, if you have men in your life, let them listen to this episode. They know exactly what I'm talking about. The most you're going to get out of any situation is 80%. And if you go after the 20, that's cool. Take the 20. Understand, to get the 20, you might have to give up the 80. And if you try to get the 80 and the 20 at the same time, there's going to be a cost. All right, everybody knows what I'm talking about. I don't even need to go into detail on this one. There is a cost. There is no way you can get 100% of what you want without paying for it. All right, and paying, you will pay. Again, do I need to go into detail on this? Not today. Again, let's recap today's class. 3 laws of economics, 3 key laws of economics. It's come to my understanding over the years. Most people do not understand or even aware or are even aware that these laws exist. Good thing is I'm here to help you out. Number 1, the law of supply and demand. Prices are determined by the relationship between how much something is available and how much people actually want it. If more people want a thing, then more will be supplied. And if too much of a thing is supplied and not enough people want it, then the value of it goes down simply because it's available, but nobody wants it. If you want to see an example of this, look at inflation. The reason why things keep costing more money is because dollars are worth less, which means businesses have to charge you more dollars to get their products because they need more dollars to equate to what it used to equate to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. The dollar just has less value. So that means you have to use more of them to get the same things. That's supply and demand. And number 2, diminish marginal returns. Adding more of an input to a fixed resource eventually leads to decreased additional output. So ever seen a woman who spent a little bit too much time at the plastic surgeon, it starts to look not good. It looked good the first time she went, but then after the 12th time she went, it starts to look like a plastic porcelain doll. All right, that's what happens when you violate the law of diminishing returns. Number 3, opportunity cost. The cost of choosing one option is the value of what is given up by not choosing the next best alternative. In other words, everything has a trade-off. Anything you do in life, there is a cost to doing it, and there are no free lunches. Anywhere in life that something looks like an easy free lunch and you can get something for absolutely nothing, understand you will pay for it. You either already paid in the past, you will pay in the present, or you will pay in the future, but guaranteed you will pay. There are no free lunches in life, and if you're looking around for a free lunch, perish the thought. All that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to learn how to put these 3 laws to use in your business and your mindset and to make things happen the way you want them to happen while understanding and respecting the laws of the universe at the same time, which I suggest you do. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, have me as your coach, and let's get to work. Work on your game. Dre, all